You're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm Ashley Hardgrave, joined this week by Oliver Camacho, Matt Cummings, and maybe Weston Williams remotely. All right, this week we tip off 2026 with a free throw from WIll Liverman. The baritone composer and pianist has a shot at winning 2 Grammys next month. He'll share a story on the making of his Grammy-nominated album, The Dunbar-Moore Sessions. And then, it's the first episode of the year, which means new resolutions and an update on our resolutions from last year. Oliver, did you ever get around to listening to an entire Meyerbeer opera? Plus, in the 2-minute drill, Denise Graves sings her final role, and Yuval Sharon is being forced to edit his LinkedIn profile. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. You're going to click follow on Apple Podcasts. You're going to hit that plus sign. You can also stream episodes of OBS every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central at amplisoundsradio.com. You can also email us your hot takes by writing to mailbag@operaboxscore.com, or you can upload a voice memo using the You Got Something to Say tab on our website. Guess what that is? operaboxscore.com. However you contribute, you get an OBS beer coaster, an OBS lapel pin, and a #1 OBS fan foam finger just for sharing your own hot takes. And as we're recording here on Monday, January 5th, I am looking back at 2 lovely gentlemen on my screen. Oliver Camacho, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Happy New Year to everybody. As the main draw of the Australian Open isn't until January 18th, you all get at least 2 more episodes of me not talking about tennis. You're welcome.
Now, Matt Cummings, will you also not be talking about tennis?
In solidarity with Oliver, I will try to refrain just for this week, but I honestly can't believe that Weston is burning one of his non-tennis weeks away from us. What is he thinking?
Seriously, that is currency. I will also not be talking about tennis. I will, however, be talking about our hometown football team, which is the very one and only Chicago Bears, who, while they are on a 2-game losing streak, are still the #2 seed in the playoffs and will play their arch rival, the Green Bay Packers, on Saturday night.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yes, here at Soldier Field.
That's the third time this year, right?
In 2 months, it's the third time. And I am just going to be breathing into a brown paper bag daily until the end of that 4th quarter, which may or may not end in overtime because that's just how these games tend to go.
Well, that'll dry out your vocal cords less.
You know what? I'm done with all my holiday gigs. I don't exactly care if my vocal cords dry out. There will be some hooting and some hollering as well.
Honestly, I busted my voice this year. I really busted. I just went for it, and at the end of some of those services, hark the herald angels sing. I had church the other day. I was like, wait a second, I can't. I don't remember how to sing the words.
Re-entry is hard for everyone, Oliver.
Re-entry is hard for everyone, and when you know you've blown a gasket early on, you know there's just all you could do is white knuckle and pray. And Oliver and I did a gig together where he saw me both white knuckling and praying with limited success. At any rate, it's fine. I'm recovered. I've had therapy paddle. Let's talk some opera.
Free throw.
So a little bit of inside Opera Box Score. We are recording on Monday the 5th, and I will be talking to WIll Liverman from my other job tomorrow on January 6th. If all goes according to plan, I will be inserting a free throw with friend of the show, WIll Liverman, right here. As we said at the top, Will has a chance to win 2 more Grammy. He already has a Grammy, and it's his 5th and 6th nomination this season. One for the Dunbar-Moore Sessions, which we're going to talk about hopefully during this free throw, and one for his participation in the Sean O'Pebble song cycle, Songs in Flight. Without further ado, here's some WIll Liverman.
Fling out your banners, your banners be bringing praise to thee for your paeans of praise. Strike every chord and let music be ringing. Celebrate freely this day
Will Liverman, welcome back to Opera Box Score. I want to talk about the Dunbar-Moore Sessions in just a second, but can you catch us up on some of the, opera highlights that we've missed since we last spoke to you? I mean, I feel like you've been like the first Black person to do XYZ, and I hate that we're saying that in 2025.
Yeah,
but I think it's true, right? That you've done some of these house premieres, role debuts.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I did that Magic Flute, and then the librarian was just looked up and was like, I don't know if we've had an African American Papageno before, and he like went through all the archives and things like that. Where I'm, to your point of like, man, how is it that I'm the first in 2000, whatever that was, 19, I think, right before the pandemic, or right at the top of the 2020, I think. And something that Terrence Blanchard says a lot, which is so true, I also say too, is like he was the first to do Fire at the Met, but not the first qualifier. And I think that also applies to me too. Like, I'm standing on the shoulders of so many Black artists and singers and composers who helped, get us here. And, I just feel fortunate to kind of have the torch and to, be in this position. So
to break the glass ceiling, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
But to catch you up, having done Malcolm X, that was a very challenging. It was rewarding at the end, I would say. Like, going through it was, it was a lot, but I came out a stronger individual because of that experience. Doing Peleos, that was another highlight, another stretch thing for me.
That was at LA Opera, right?
Yeah,
with Sidney Marcasola.
I had never sang a public A before. So you do them in Barber, but you touch it like, like this is like, boom, hold it down, half note.
Peleos can be sung by a tenor,
Yeah, so that really stretched me as a performer and a singer doing that. And one more highlight would probably be some of the things I did overseas. I did a Peter Grimes with Dutch National. That was cool. And the biggest, the Britain War Requiem. Yeah. So doing those pair of Britons were really great. And to live in Britain sound world for a while was really nice.
What's the baritone role in Peter? It's Balstra? No, I'm thinking of.
Balstra. And then there's Ned.
Okay.
Ned Keane, the medicine guy. Or he's a doctor or something. But I love that opera. It's immediately shot up to one of my top 5 after hearing it with the orchestra, the Peter Grimes.
Yeah, and you don't, I guess you don't really imagine a lot of Black people in Britain operas. I think Roderick Williams is getting away with a lot, Yeah,
but that's part of it too. It's like, how can we, we talk about the evolution of opera and continuing to step outside of these boundaries. What does that look like with casting? When you look at a piece like Billy Budd, things that are, explicitly like Blue Eyes and this, how can we continue to push that and highlight just the performer for who they are and what they can bring to a role.
And then if you make a Billy Budd Black and the rest of the cast is white, are you in danger of othering him in a different way,
Yeah. It's very tricky when it comes to casting, but I'm always inspired when I see diverse casting, but I'm looking at them like they're just great singers first, and then it happens to be diverse. I think that, is always a great thing to see.
Well, in addition to your singing, you're also, a curator and a composer, and we see, on the large overview, a backlash against DEI and companies getting conservative again, for fear of losing funding and maybe audience pushback, et cetera. Yuval Sharon just lost his job at Detroit, So I wonder if it's filtered back to you as a composer / curator, yet some of this, maybe, don't go that far with this topic or with this type of music. Are you feeling it?
I mean, yeah, I'll keep it 100. I mean, I think there are definitely, you see companies that came out very strong with, hey, I support this, I support that, in light of George Floyd. And then, in light of the current political climate, we're seeing a lot of moonwalking back to, people have to look out for their money. But at the same time, there is a shift. You feel the shift of, that explosion that started coming out of the pandemic with being more thoughtful to the stories that we're telling and including everybody. Now, what that looks like going forward, I have no idea. Opera remains to be one of those, you never know. Like I have hope that the art form has survived this long, and it's tremendous, honestly, to think about all of the stories that have been told for hundreds of years that still have new meaning, and they're timeless for a reason. But also, we still have to really put a lot of care into the stories that we're telling now, because the lived experiences is something I think the audiences should see more of. And that's, when you look at the world around us, it's diverse. So I don't know how we tackle that or kind of can, figure that out. But as artists, we can just only keep doing what we're doing, and be a service to the art and creating things that are meaningful for us. I think one of the great things during the pandemic or post-pandemic is, people just taking it upon, I feel like I took it upon myself to do a lot of these projects and not wait for permission. And I see a lot of artists, doing that, and I'm inspired by that. And I think that's something we just have to probably do more of, is just, to kind of take control of what we want to see on stage a little bit more.
Well, unfortunately, your recording output to date is mostly centered on song. Not unfortunately, but just that's sort of what's happened for you as a composer and as a singer. I mean, they're making some of these recordings of HD broadcasts. They're putting them into the Grammy categories, even though it's hard to listen to them unless you are streaming it. Nobody's going to go out and buy Fire Stuck in My Bones, like the CD,
Yeah.
But, But I did want to bring this back to the Dunbar-Moore Sessions, which is nominated for a Grammy, and it's your fifth technical nomination, but really could be your fifth or sixth since you're on Songs in Flight. This album has Aaron Morley, Isabel Leonard, Jacqueline Eccles, Ann Toomey, Lauren Snofer, and other collaborators. How did you get all these people? There was a time when you couldn't actually do that because they had their own labels, and you would have to have them released from their labels. I think that's not really a thing anymore, but still. I mean, how many days did you spend at the studio? Was it all in one 2-week swoop, or did you have to
we had to break it up over the course of a few weeks, and the saving grace was that we're recorded in New York. So eventually, it's like a magnet. All singers got to report back to New York at some point. So everyone just happened to be around, and there's a few people like Jacqueline we flew in. Isabel was around. Aaron was already there doing something at the Met. Michael Kilgore, who's an amazing, phenomenal artist and is well known in the Broadway world, was in New York. So it was just a matter of getting everyone's schedules together, and how we, ended up pulling that off. But it definitely took a lot of planning because it was happening around the Magic Flute that I was doing too. So I had to wait for that schedule to come out and then be like, okay, how can we, work around the recording dates, so.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about this last subject of genre and how your brand, I think you've already established that you can do gospel, that you can do jazz, that you can, sing opera chops, that you have the intellectualism to do straightforward, art song, but that you also know how to, play a good, I don't know if we call it just like gospel piano. I don't know if that's like the right terminology, you know?
Yeah.
And that it's like you sort of are fluid, and sometimes you even blend within the same work. Do you think that this is going to be sort of the trademark of the American singer going forward?
Wow, man, I've honestly never, I have not once thought about that.
I mean, I think about Ryan Opera Center,
Yeah.
and especially during the pandemic, these kids, I know they're not kids, but I think the kids was like half my age. They had to do all of these like, video, streaming concerts where they're singing whatever, Charlie Chaplin Smile or like whatever, like, or doing something that is not, traditionally opera, and using their voice in a different way and representing like American music.
Yeah.
And do you have to, I mean, like, I just can't imagine like going to the Netherlands or going to whatever, Germany, and being expected to do that music.
Right. When you say that, there's one person, a Chicago guy, but also worldwide, that I have to shout out, and that's Craig Terry.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he is someone who is a mentor of mine, and he's always had that mind of blend, because his classical chops are crazy, but when he does his Beyond the Aria nights, it's exactly that. It's just a blend of a lot of different styles, and he pushes the boundaries a lot. And so to kind of be in the program with him, just allowing for that sort of freedom and flexibility was a big inspiration. And I really hope that people going forward realize that there are other options, right? Like, I think there's so much beauty in the standards and how things are traditionally done, and there's certain things that I don't want to hear any other way, but as we go forward, continuing. And I also say this realizing, like, I'm not the first art composer to try to blend things and do things a different way. But I think just continuing to encourage that there are other options, and the styles that we grew up learning and loving, we don't have to abandon in our singing all the time.
My thanks to the PR team at Primo Artists for connecting me with WIll Liverman. My complete interview with WIll Liverman airs on WFMT this Saturday, January 10th at 4 p.m.
Chalk Talk on Opera Box Score.
So, as Ashley said at the top of the show, it's the first episode of the year, and we're getting into this tradition of doing these lists because people love a list. And so I think we should start by following up with some of the prompts from last year, starting with stories that we were going to pay attention to. Ashley, do you remember what story you're going to pay attention to in 2025?
One of the things I was paying attention to was, first, what's up with lyrics choral palooza and choral experimentations. That only got further exacerbated with our dear friend from the Smashing Pumpkins at the end of 2025. And I maintain my same prediction. I'm officially glad, but it's odd. The other thing that I mentioned was with the changing administration and the crackdown on immigration. What is that going to do with artists on the varying visas? We've seen changes in people making their plans to come to the States in sort of the at-large classical music world. I haven't seen as many stories about opera singers specifically when it comes to these O visas or the P3 visas. I haven't really heard anything about them being a lot harder to come by in 2025. We have seen some major exits and departures from the United States that aren't necessarily visa-based, but administration-based, like, I don't know, Lydia Yankovskaya, who has been one of our hometown heroes. So it is definitely something that we can continue to watch. But those are the two that I sort of paid attention to. One that turned out even funnier than I thought, and one that has turned out more disappointing than I thought.
Yeah, I think in terms of the visa that you're mentioning, we've definitely heard somewhere between anecdotally and with real evidence that those kind of transitions are harder with getting people here on time and ready to start rehearsals. And so it is leading to definitely more administrative bumpiness, but but we're not totally seeing the huge holes and gaps of people having to withdraw from their entire season in the States yet. And hopefully it doesn't come to that, but remains to be seen. Every week brings a new nightmare already in 2026.
Yes, and just one more dovetail on that before I let Oliver jump in if he wants to comment is we are recording this on January 5th, which is just a few days after January 3rd, which brought a new interesting series of moves by our administration in terms of international relations. I anticipate this will exacerbate many, many international relations, so I worry this may blow up a touch.
Well, my story to watch was similar to yours on what opera companies were going to do to keep the doors open and how they were going to use the space, especially non-opera performances, and how this impacts the industry. And after we recorded, not long after, Lyric Opera here in Chicago announced their season, which included performances of Carmina Burana and a new collaboration with Smashing Pumpkins, the Melancholy, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
Sadness. Yeah.
So those are two uses of the orchestra and chorus in non-operatic ways. And supposedly the Melancholy was very successful. Furthermore, they added more movie nights at Lyric Opera with the orchestra playing the score. They did one last year, and this year they have two, and apparently they're very successful. They're like cash grabs, and they don't require, the same level of, creativity and artistry, So that's the trend right now, and I suspect other opera companies are also looking for those types of solutions to get people in the door and to keep as many people employed as possible with the least amount of rehearsal. Matt, did you have a story you wanted to tell us about that you were following this year?
I was not on the resolutions episode for last year, but I will briefly put on my high heels and substitute in for Weston, and mention that his story for 2025 that he was called out for watching, it was going to be the Pay What You Can initiative from Upper Philadelphia, and whether or not that was going to catch fire and become the new industry norm. And we can say some good news, some bad news, not a lot of bad news, but definitely more still to come here. It did not become the industry standard, but it is still in effect at Opera Philadelphia, which is wonderful news. And I know, and there are at least a handful of different regional companies that have undergone a similar initiative to make opera more affordable and more accessible to their audience. But we're pretty far away from an industry tipping point, I would say.
The next prompt we're going to catch up on are the artists, not limited to singers, who we thought were going to get big in 2025. I shouted out countertenor Hugh Cutting and mezzo-soprano Meridian Prawl. In fact, in 2025, Hugh Cutting could have been found on four new recordings, one of the Britain Canticles, one of Dido and Aeneas starring Joyce DiDonato, a duet album with countertenor Carla Vistoli, and his own solo debut art song recital called Refound. And Meridian Prawl won second prize in the Queen Sonia International Singing Competition, and both Hugh Cutting and Meridian Prawl somehow ended up in the cast for the upcoming production of Rodolinda at Santa Fe Opera. Hugh will be singing the role of Unulfo, and Meridian will be singing Eduige. So it'll be great to see them together in a show, and I did not know that was happening. So, I think I picked some winners. Ashley, do you remember who you were going to follow this year?
Yeah, I was definitely interested in following tenor Sahel Salam. He's somebody who's finishing up his time in the artist program at WNO. He just finished a run as Sher Khan in that production of The Jungle Book, and a billion performances at a bunch of different embassies. So the challenge with Sahel is he was there as Sher Khan, but for the press night, he actually was unable to perform. And Nicholas Huff, who at the performance for the press sang the role of Shere Khan from the orchestra pit. And then other people inhabited the tiger costume as they walked around on stage. But when he was able to perform, he was given reviews as, quote, menacing, which is kind of what you want out of a Shere Khan. And he is apparently like the embassy singer du jour in a city like Washington. So seems like he's doing great things. I'm really excited to see more of him.
And then the big one, our personal opera-related resolution. Last year, my resolution was to visit a new opera company and to listen to some composers who are not part of my diet. I think I named Meyerbeer and Janacek. I will say that I did have to listen to Le Prophète, and I enjoyed it very much in preparation for my interview with Elizabeth Deschamps. And I sat through Cunning Little Vixen at Des Moines Opera, thereby killing two birds with one stone. My first time at Des Moines this summer, and an experience with a Janacek opera. I can't say that I'm, on the Janacek train just yet, but there's, it's a lifelong, resolution, I would say.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
It's so text driven.
Did you have a resolution that you didn't share with us last year, or should we just go to Ashley on this one?
My resolution in general was just to get back out going to more performances. It had kind of been a while since I was able to make that happen, and I did make it to more performances in 2025 than in 2024. So we're counting that as a win.
Ashley?
I was halfway there. It's part of my resolution is going to bleed over into 2026 because what I really wanted to do was get to see more stuff in my backyard. I didn't really get to see a ton of storefront, but to be fair, nobody, and I mean nobody, knew exactly what a hellscape 2025 was going to be sociopolitically or for me and my depression personally. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a pass on that. But I did get to the listeners at Lyric, which was even better than I was anticipating. So I did resolve to see more stuff in my town. I just didn't see as many as I wanted.
Hello everyone, Weston here, checking in on my 2025 New Year's resolutions, and I'm very excited to announce that my first resolution did not exactly pan out. I have here, and I'm reading it out to you as live as I say this. My resolution was buying a ticket far enough in advance to actually see Daphne at Haymarket Opera. Of course, Daphne was very well received when it came out at Haymarket last year, but unfortunately, I once again have not made it to Haymarket Opera. I know, I'm sorry, things keep happening. This time, there were circumstances outside my control, a little bit of a family emergency around that date, but it's okay because this year, I'm doubling down. I'm going to try it again. My second resolution, though, it says I need to start saving up so I can go to Bayreuth before it implodes financially. And the good news is that thanks to Rienzi, doesn't look like it'll implode anytime soon. So things are looking pretty good.
Thank you, Weston, if you contributed. But now we will go to our prompts for 2026. And let's just do these each in a group so that we can be a little bit more expansive and fast at the same time. The prompts for 2026 are, what is your resolution? Who are artists to watch? What are the shows you want to see? And what's a sports story that you're following? So for me, 2026, my resolution is to, as I've been doing, but to really do it more loudly, to challenge the dominance of gay white male leaders in arts administration, particularly opera. And I'm just gonna go scorched earth in 2026.
Speak it.
Artists to watch in 2026 are tenor Kang Wang and soprano Suzanne Burgess, who both happen to be starring in Florentine Opera's upcoming production of The Tales of Hoffmann. I've heard so much about Kang Wang, and I saw Suzanne in Opera Theater St. Louis's Don Pasquale, I think filling in for Sidney Mancasola, and she was great. So I'm really excited to see them in one of my all-time favorite operas, Tales of Hoffmann. Shows I want to see in 2026, I'm going to leave Innocence to Weston. I'm sure that's what he's going to say. So I'm going to go ahead and shout out Opera Atelier's upcoming production of Pelléas and Mélisande. They're not known for this era in opera, but they are known for really gorgeous productions. And it will feature friends of the show, Antonin Rompierre as Pelléas, friend of the show, Douglas Williams as Golo, and Megan Lindsay as Mélisande. And the sports story that obviously I'm going to be following is how will Carlos Alcaraz do with a new coach? And bonus sports story, are the gays now into hockey? Matt.
So starting off right away, my 2026 resolution is to it's to continue my vinyl hunt. I've gotten bitten by the vinyl bug. And my goal for this year as I build out my library is to try to look as much as I can for records that never made it onto CD. The Martina Arroyo Arias disc is one that like absolutely comes to mind. Like, gotta find that one somewhere. I'll give myself a more in my control resolution as well, since the inventory of various thrift stores and resale shops is not totally there. But I would like to go to attend non-vocal concerts as well. We've got CSO in our backyard. I love a Grant Park concert, even if I don't necessarily pay the most attention to the music there so much as the whole experience. But just to notch my win of continuing to attend more performances again, it like fit them more into my life. There's such an interesting like premium that free time that I've put on like free time to take care of things at home recently, with balancing this podcast and my day job and my singing life. And I feel like attending performances like has fallen a little bit by the wayside. And that
it's work. I promise you, it's work.
Yeah,
it is work.
Some of that is adulthood, but we gotta rediscover the joy. Artist to watch in 2026, not the first time I've talked about her on this show, but I do think that she's still a little bit of like a connoisseur singer, is Esme Gregorian. And I think that looking at her upcoming schedule this year, she has got some really prime assignments like Onegin at the Met, which is going to be live streamed, also doing Tatiana in Vienna. She's doing Salome in Munich. She's doing Lady Macbeth in Munich. That's sort of becoming a signature role for her. Like those are a lot of really plum assignments to make a big splash and get noticed by more than just the people who are listening to Opera Box Score and on Parterre Box. Also, we talked about this on our replay episode last week, but I'm fascinated to hear Michael Spires sing Wagner. Which brings me to one of the performances in 2026 that I'm most interested in seeing. In an ideal world, Oliver, you and I would be having a little New York escapade with press tickets to see Tristan at the Met. But if that's not going to happen, perhaps at least they're going to be producing it in HD. And I also never really made it to the HD of Cavalier and Clay last year, but that was such a coup for the Met to be able to restage it when they were going to be fallow this winter. And it looks like they've got some upcoming rebroadcasts of that as well. So would like to make it there. And in terms of sports stories, buckle up, folks. The Winter Olympics is coming. And we are going to talk about all the skating, speed, figure, you name it.
What about, I see the word chess in here just kind of randomly floating.
Oh, that is that's not so much a resolution.
Nobody's on nobody's
as it is
side, Matt.
something that that I've already purchased tickets to.
Oh,
Shut up! You have not.
I have. I will be going to see chess in March, which is for those of you who are unfamiliar, it is a 1980s rock opera with music by the Men from ABBA and lyrics by Tim Rice about what if the Cold War were actually a chess tournament. It's an allegory. It's not a particularly subtle or effective one, but it is an allegory with nonstop bangers.
I feel like you can do a spring training for your ears on that. I'd love to learn more about that because it's out of my wheelhouse. So.
It is incredible. Matt, we can put this together, you and I. The music is incredible. The story is garbage.
Incomprehensible.
It does not work, but the music is banana crackers good. It is, I mean, it is banger, like head banger feel your feelings music. It's incredible. Matt, I'm so
recently learned that it was undertaken as a project by Tim Rice because he wanted to try to scoop Andrew Lloyd Webber at the Tonys the year that Phantom was transferring to New York, because he was mad at him for not using his lyrics for memory. So really, everything is pettiness. What could be more operatic than that?
Well, let's take a break from this lowest common denominator and put Weston in here. We'll take it the opposite direction.
Thanks, everybody. If at first you don't succeed, I say try again. I'm coming for you, Haymarket Opera. I'm going to see a production from you this year. That's my 2026 resolution, because 2025 didn't work out so hot. Speaking of things not working out so hot for the arts and for politics, I think my more serious resolution is to provide more support for arts organizations, whether that's by donating or attending more, or perhaps, in a most fiscally responsible version of this for myself, bringing more first-timers to opera performances. And I would encourage all of our listeners to do the same, because with funding dropping in through the floor and with more and more ire being drawn towards the arts from various, shall we say, fashy elements in the government, I think it's going to be very important to support organizations that are even a little bit anti-fascist, which at this point in time, early 2026, does appear to be most of them. So I think I'm going to try to support that more in 2026. In terms of artists to watch, I think Sok Jong-baek, the tenor who we saw here at Cavalleria Rusticana in Chicago, really kind of took me by surprise. You can go back and listen to that episode where Oliver and Matt and I all talk about the performance. And he really is kind of a talent that we'd heard his name before, but we'd never seen him live. And wow, what a gorgeous tone, what a stage presence in terms of, his voice filling the room, but while remaining very pleasant. The phrasing is really immaculate. Really fantastic talent that we're very excited to see more of in 2026. I also want to shout out friend of the show, Kimon Mara, who, of course, we discovered back in the day. But even beyond his discovery, obviously the last couple of years have been really huge for him. He's been singing on bigger and bigger stages all over the world. But I feel like he's about to hit an inflection point in 2026, especially if you're looking at his social media accounts and his comments. People are discovering him from outside the opera world and becoming obsessed as we are with him. And I think this is going to be his year. In terms of shows I want to see, Oliver called it. I really want to see Innocence. It's going to be a really fantastic show. This is at the Metropolitan Opera. It starts in April 6th and runs through, I think, the end of the month, more or less. This is the last opera of Kaya Sariaho, who unfortunately passed a couple of years ago. But this is going to be a really exciting work. I've seen I think on YouTube there was a full performance of it from I believe its premiere season. And this is it's a really cool opera. It's kind of a rough watch in many ways, but musically just gorgeous, as one would expect. It's all about, working through sort of a school shooting, which is very relevant for the United States. And it's going to be a great creative team. Susanna Melki is going to conduct. Jacqueline Stucker is a leading role in this, the bride. The mother-in-law is being played by Kathleen Kim. We've got Joyce DiDonato as the waitress, Miles Mikkonen. I mean, this is a star-studded cast. It's going to be a great opera, and I think it's overdue into the U.S. market, as it were. I'm also going to shout out a couple of others that I'm very excited for. Salome at the Lyric Opera of Chicago is going to be very exciting. I'm trying to find a way to see it twice already. And one more, I almost didn't include this because it's starting so soon, but this Friday, January 9th, and the 10th, 11th, and 14th in New York City is the premiere on the East Coast, of Hildegard by Sarah Kirkland Snyder, who I talked about quite a bit when they premiered it last year in LA, and now it's coming to the other coast. So if you are in New York City, you don't want to miss that. I love Sarah Kirkland Snyder. I love the concept of Hildegard von Bingen for an opera, and I think it's going to be really, really cool. Sadly, I won't be able to make it, so you'll have to let us know how good it actually is. Overall, I think the big thing to watch out for in 2026 in terms of classical music and opera is the resistance against, the current regime here in the United States, and seeing how the clashes happen or don't happen across 2026. We're seeing, of course, a laboratory in terms of the Kennedy Center, where a lot of artists are dropping out left and right, raising the middle finger, seeing lawsuits directed at them, et cetera, et cetera. And that, of course, is still developing. But we're also seeing a lot of the classical musicians at the Kennedy Center not being quite as vocal for reasons that, I think we've talked about as being more or less valid, depending. Obviously, we don't have as much leverage in classical music as a more popular genre might. But at the same time, I think that that's the story I'll be watching in 2026 to see what kinds of resistance and how strong it is. I also have one more resolution. I'm going to forgive Oliver, take the high road for talking about tennis so much. New year, new me. Tennis is fine. Back to you.
Thank you, Weston. Ashley.
My 2026 resolution, part of it is the Chicago spirit of yes and when it comes to seeing more things in my backyard, because again, as we established, I gave myself grace for not doing as much as I wanted to. But another thing I want to do is I'm a documentary freak. I will watch documentaries on just about anything. What I want to do is go find like the best, the worst, the most bizarre of opera documentaries, or documentaries about opera singers or composers or costumers. This is something that, I'll be honest, once I find really cool, weird stuff, I'm absolutely going to share it with you as an audience and community. But that's something that I'm really excited to kind of sink my teeth into a little bit this year, is just finding more cool, weird opera documentaries. I know that it's unsurprising and not something that you would ever think of me doing, but that's what I'm going to do. My artist to watch, this is a little bit controversial. And it's not just an artist, but it's a group of artists. For better or for worse, I want to see what happens with Detroit Opera. Because we've got this exit of Yuval leaving 2 years before his original contract was over, the financial troubles that had them canceling Von Schula, these declining ticket sales, even though they've had these things that have been super, super innovative in the opera world. I just wonder what the rest of this season is going to feel like. And then in sort of what their season announcements are going to look like moving forward. Spring has them remounting that Comet Popea thing that he's already done before, and he was originally supposed to direct Apartment House 1776, and he's not now, so it sort of feels like he's checked out a little bit already, Mr. Yuval. But I want to keep my finger on the pulse as to what's going on.
Spoiler alert for the 2-minute drill.
Oh, sorry about that. We'll talk more about it, but yeah, that's definitely one I just want to. Sometimes artists to watch we're so excited for what they're going to do, but for this one, it's like, what are they going to do? Shows I want to see. There are two. The one I really want to see is Tremonisha at WNO, because nobody ever does it. Viviana Goodwin is singing the title role, and Denise Graves, in another spoiler for our 2-minute drill, is going to be directing. So that's just a show I would really like to see. What I am definitely going to see, because I am Nostradamus and called it, is Cozy at Lyric Opera of Chicago. Stay with me. I said, okay, I do these cabaret shows periodically when the mood strikes me, and I write these jokes and comedy bits and sketches for them. And in my February 2025 show, the hill I died on was that the world needs old Despinas. Young Despinas that are supposed to be the ones teaching these women about the wiles of the world. They're allegedly 14 in these scripts. They don't know anything. You need a Despina that's old and has seen some stuff. You need a Despina that's going to help you move a couch and is possibly going through menopause. That's what your Despina needs to be like. And wouldn't you know, Lyric has cast Ana Maria Martinez, who is 55 years old, as Despina. So I think it makes way more sense with somebody that's older. I just can't believe I called it before it actually happened. So those are the two shows that I'm wanting to see. The second one I probably will. In terms of sports stories, I definitely second Matt on the Olympics. You're not going to be able to hear us shut up about it for the next, 4 weeks.
Nor would they want to.
Nor would you want to. Come on. If there's any sports scene that really brings the art of classical music in organically, it's going to be the Olympics. But the other thing that I'm going to be paying attention to is all of football on every imaginable level being a mild, we're not going to curse on this show, so S show. So the college football playoff system is in desperate need of reform. We've seen some people that should have been in that weren't, some people that were that shouldn't have been. We've seen lower seeds knocking out top seeds, which is kind of the nature of the game. But the the whole process needs insane reform. And the NFL is in some weird up is down, black is white era where all of these teams that tend to be bad, like the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks, my beloved Chicago Bears, are like good and have winning records or in playoffs. So it's just a very weird time for football in general. Also, I'm going to manifest this really quickly. I want to get my dream crossover collaboration of the Opera Box Score team with a podcast that is called Sports Gossip. And it's exactly that. It's two women that gossip about sports, and they're incredible and witty. And so I want to find a way to bring us together.
Let's do it.
So yes, you heard me. I am manifesting a sports gossip collaboration into existence. You know what else I'm going to speak into existence and manifest right now? The 2-minute drill.
This just in. The 2-minute drill.
All right, listen up. Here is everything you need to know about what happened in Operaland this week.
Yuval Sharon, who became artistic director of Detroit Opera in 2020, will leave at the end of the current season due to financial constraints. The company, with a $16.4 million annual budget, has been affected by the end of federal COVID assistance, declining ticket sales, and reduced support from major donors, leading to the cancellation of this season's opener and budget cuts. Sharon's productions garnered critical acclaim and attracted new attendees, but disappointed some traditional opera lovers. His departure coincides with his Met debut with the upcoming new production of his Tristan und Isolde.
Denise Graves has announced her retirement after over 40 years on the opera stage, with her final performance set for January 24th as Maria in Porgy and Bess at the Met. Citing declining elasticity for travel, increased recovery needs, and a worsening thyroid condition, the effects of menopause on her voice, Graves will now focus on the Denise Graves Foundation, advocating for social justice and mentoring young singers at historically black colleges and universities.
Grand Théâtre de Genève has closed for repairs. The company said that its home will be closed for 18 months of renovations scheduled to last until June of 2027. In the interim, all productions will be presented at the Bâtiment des Forces Motrices.
A big one for Weston, San Francisco Opera has announced their upcoming Ring cycle, the first complete one for their music director Eun-Sung Kim, will take place in June 2028. Performances will star Brian Mulligan as Wotan, Simon O'Neill as Siegfried, and friend of the show Tamara Wilson as Brunhilde, with the remaining cast to be announced over the next year. The company is remounting friend of the show Francesca Zambello's American-inspired ring, which was last seen there in 2011 and 2018.
In a trade news story tailor-made for Opera Box Score, James Santilli has joined the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra as Chief Revenue and Experience Officer after a 3-decade marketing career with the Pittsburgh Penguins. In a recent interview with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Santilli noticed surprising similarities between the sports and classical music worlds. We know, including a subscription decline rate and an interest in customizable experiences. He plans to emphasize the orchestra's reputation while expanding community education programs and youth initiatives like PSO Go.
Lorenzo Viotti has been announced as Zurich Opera House's new general music director, taking over the role from Gianandrea Nozeda beginning in August of 2028. With Lorenzo Viotti, a Swiss conductor comes to the Zurich Opera House who knows the house well and is internationally one of the distinctive voices of his generation, said Intendant Matthias Schütz in a bad translation from German. His musicality and presence promise artistic radiance, courage, and new impetus for our program.
A once beloved artist whose name rhymes with Flacido Bromingo has been appointed as artistic director of the Puccini Festival's Academy. The Academy was established in 1995 as a place for the, quote, direct transmission of musical knowledge, designed for young artists already embarking on their careers. And we will allow our audience to write their own jokes.
Exit stage right. Swiss mezzo-soprano Yvonne Neif has passed away after a brief illness, as announced by Machreich Artists Management. Neif was internationally renowned for her late romantic and dramatic repertoire, performing major Wagner and Verdi roles at leading opera houses such as the Met, Vienna State Opera, and Covent Garden, as well as festivals like Bayreuth and Salzburg. She was also an esteemed concert and lieder performer, specializing in Mahler and Schoenberg.
Carmen de Lavallade, the first Creole African descendant prima ballerina at the Met, has passed away at age 94. Born in Los Angeles, she joined the Met in 1955, performing in and choreographing productions of Aida, Porgy and Bess, and Lucia di Lammermoor. Beyond opera, she appeared in films like Carmen Jones, served as principal guest performer with the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, taught future stars like Meryl Streep as a Yale Repertory Theater professor, and received numerous honors, including the Kennedy Center Honors Award in 2017.
Baritone Juan Cristobal Flores, a chorus member with the Arizona Opera, has died from injuries sustained in a shooting at a Goodwill Donation Center in Tucson. A graduate from the University of Arizona, Flores sang in the Tucson Symphony Chorus, the Catalina United Methodist Church, and the Helios Ensemble, where he was scheduled as a soloist for a Bach cantata this March.
And on this day, January 5th, in 1649, it was the first performance of Francesco Cavalli's opera Giasone in Venice. Alessandro had two premieres on this day, La Statira in Rome in 1690 and Il Mitridate Eupatore in Venice in 1707. Niccolo Piccini's Lo Sposo Burlato premiered in Rome in 1769. The Palais Garnier, the original building of the Paris Opera and the inspiration for the Phantom of the Opera, opened on this day in 1875. And Gilbert and Sullivan's operetta Princess Ida premiered in London in 1884.
Birthdays on January 5th include American-based David Bispham in Philadelphia in 1857. He created roles in operas by Stanford and Cohen and Floridia, whoever they are. In 1868, American baritone and coach Oscar Sanger was born in Brooklyn. In 1872, Hungarian tenor Otakar Marak was born. He created the role of Gennaro in Wolf Ferrari's Jewels of Madonna. In 1875, the English baritone and coach Alberto Garcia was born in London. His teachers included Gustave Garcia, his father, and Pauline Viardot Garcia. In 1894, Corsican tenor Gaston Micheletti was born, who sang in the premiere of operas by La Parra, Fournier, Bosquet, and Bruno. In 1924, American soprano Doris Jung was born in Centralia, Illinois. Italian tenor Franco Gitti was born in Brescia in 1932. He sang in the premiere of Bettinelli's Pozzo e il Pendolo, a bop. In 1949, the late Wilhelmina Fernando was born on this day. And happy birthday to English mezzo-soprano Janine Roebuck, born in Barnsley. She was born in 1954, and she is not only a deaf opera singer, but an inspirational speaker.
And that's your 2-minute drill.
Janine Roebuck singing O Mio Babbino Caro at the 2009 Ability Media International Awards. I got admonished by my audience at my other job for saying that somebody with a natural disability or a natural handicap, I don't know how you even say this, was like a hero, was like a wonder, and that like that's very ableist to say that something does is incredible because they are doing it with their disability. So I don't even know I need some DEI training on how to talk about people with disabilities, but she's deaf. And
that's illegal now, Oliver, so you're going to have to wait till at least 2029.
You're going to be fine for that. I don't know. I would gently push back on that a little bit. I mean, the whole point of, the traditional way in which we are trained as singers is to quite literally listen and feel. And the way that you have to perceive vibrations around you when you don't have that one sense at your disposal, I would consider that an incredible and superhuman feat that should be applauded. But I'm sorry that your coworkers did not.
No, it was from the audience. So it's like I got emails. So, yeah.
Oh, but her emails. At any rate, let's talk about some things that have happened this week. We've got two equally sad but very different departures from the way that we know these people. Yuval Detroit and Nisi G from the stage. I was really sort of saddened to hear about the Denise thing, but just in hearing a little bit more about sort of what her health problems have been and, how tough it is to bounce back from the travel. I'm sad, but I get it. Like, I want her to live and sing forever, but I do understand, like, being tired, being ready to focus in other areas and sort of making space on stages for others. And I'm so grateful that I got a chance to see her in Fidelio at a time when we still had a little hope in Washington. I
mean, she still sounds incredible. And I could think of so many roles that, you can be, her age and have her voice type and still make a huge impression in a short role. What's the name of the mother in Queen of Spades, or the grandmother in Queen of Spades?
Oh, what is that role?
The old Countess,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, something like that. That'd be amazing, But alas, she is moving into stage directing. And in fact, I'm in talks with her foundation to try to interview her for WFMT. And right after she finishes this Porgy and Bess production, she literally goes like the next day to WNO to start rehearsals on Treemonacia. So
no rest for her.
Yeah.
Just onwards and upwards into the next best thing. You got to rise and grind, even if you're Denise Graves.
Yeah. But what if you're Yuval Sharon?
Ugh. This has got hair all over it. I don't know how much you got into the Times article that was sent over to us. It's baffling to me because, there's such a bang and boom with so many of his ideas and his, in the words of Spike Lee terms, joints. It seems like they're all very interesting, but they did have some significant pushback from traditionalists that didn't really love all the things that they were doing. They had some steep declines in their ticket sales, and
it wasn't the ticket sales. The ticket sales were some of their best-selling shows.
For some of the stuff, not all.
Right. But especially these major donors, I think, are what really made everyone's blood run cold. Like, if you're an organization of the scale of Detroit Opera, and you're hearing from the Mellon Foundation that they're going to cut off the spigot of grants, like, that is like a hair on fire type of announcement. And
yeah,
I was left with this article from this article with more questions than answers. Like, they're talking about some ticket sales declining, some ticket sales going off, but it's like, really, they're going to run their artistic director out of town because he programmed one new opera, the Malcolm X opera, and took a swing at Bohème, which gets done every year, everywhere.
I gathered that it wasn't just them running him out of town. The part that I interpreted was that he kind of came in with, these aren't the terms that I agreed to in terms of the way that funding was going to be happening. So mayhaps this was more of a mutual parting of the ways, or maybe I read that wrong, but that was a quote that stuck with me, was like, he was like, this isn't what I agreed to. So that's been hanging over my head. Not that he's like, running out of town on his own, but it's just a bummer because it seemed like it had lots of promise. And so to see it end 2 years before it was planned to is disappointing.
There seems to be a lot of behind the scenes scuttlebutt here that's just kind of like alluded to in this article, but not actually, they're not coming out and saying like what they mean.
Yeah. I mean, he's a friend of the show, and
100%.
we don't want to disparage, but I would have liked to have seen
not.
3 seasons of what he had intended, to see what the full scope of what he was willing to do with that company is. But, he probably was taking a big swing in his first season, and maybe he was going to balance it in the middle season to bring back some of those legacy audience members. But, as we said, when they made the season announcement, that Fanciulla was the show that was for the traditional audience, and that was the one that got canceled. So,
yeah, it's It's a bummer. And then there's that whole, like, you know, there's a Gerke quote in the article, and then there's that whole thing, and she's got a separate side thing that's going on after stepping down from her position.
A rival concert opera being stood up to present more traditional works. Yeah.
Is that what we're calling it? I don't know. Like you said, I have more questions than answers.
With Lily Pulliam and LaTanya Moore and Christine Gerke singing Turandot, that's like, it was just announced during the holidays. So
what we're going to need to do, however, is start a fundraiser for roof repairs, because whatever place they put that in, the roof is going to blow off. So we're going to need to make sure that they've got some funding secured for, at the very least, tile repair. In a move that is flippin' duh, have y'all been listening to us at all for any of our several seasons? I just want to mention really quickly this article on the hockey marketing executive turn symphony marketing executive. He's been there since April, but he did an interview at the very end of the year. This article was released in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, where they interview him and ask him, why would you do this sort of move in this transition? And the vibe of the article, while I'm delighted he's there and seems excited about initiatives, was, it turns out the worlds of classical music and professional sports are run the same. To which I say, duh.
I guess I don't understand why he would leave sports for classical music. Is the Pittsburgh team that bad that he stands a better chance with the symphony?
No, they're not that at all, Oliver.
I'm asking. I really don't know.
No, so. There were cuts and a round of layoffs that had him sort of move into consulting. So he did some sort of consulting in between. So it wasn't that he just like left the NHL to go to the symphony. It's that he had sort of made this transition and this shift into consulting, and then this opportunity opened up at the symphony, and there he is.
Like we said at the top show, it's all about making your LinkedIn tell a story,
That's what it is. In fact, now let's tell the story of wrapping this show up.
Good call, bad call on Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call. It's the way we end every episode. I'm going to start with Oliver Camacho.
We always talk about Catherine Needleman and her advocacy for human rights, let's just say it that way, on her platforms. During the break, she started a petition for Vancouver Symphony Orchestra to release violinist Esther Huang from her NDA. And the petition now has over 13,000 signatures, and there is a planned protest. So we will link to the change.org website, which you can sign the petition. And if you're in Vancouver, you can go ahead and protest if you'd like. We always co-sign the work of Catherine Needleman.
What I am doing as a good call is more of an encouragement, a call to action, if you will. Oliver had a petition. I have a personal call to action. It's to chase wonder. Turns out experiencing wonder is something that extends your life. There's new research out of King's College London, and it gauged people's physiological responses when they were viewing works of the masters like Gauguin, Van Gogh, Manet, Toulouse-Lautrec for at least 20 minutes. Now, it found the participants' level of stress hormones, cortisol, dropped by 22% on average just for viewing things with wonder for 20 minutes. So what I would like to encourage all of you listeners to do is find that thing that's wonder. Sometimes that's just going outside and looking up. The point is, we are in a really challenging time. We all need to find ways to chase joy and wonder. And now it turns out that science says it'll help you live longer, if that's your goal. Matt Cummings.
I'm going to double dip into references to my hometown this week because we deserve more representation than we get in the national media. So on top of the very exciting news about James Santilli, I will say that on the day that this episode comes out, season 2 of The Pit also comes out, and you better believe that I will be watching it.
Absolutely. We both will. That's it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio show about opera. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get your voice heard and find links to stuff we've talked about on that website, which is operaboxscore.com. That is also where you can put your money where our mouths are. You can give back to the OBS using the Support the Team tab. Your announcer is Norm Waddell. Your creative consultant is Oliver Camacho, and your audio editor is Weston Williams. The executive producer of OBS is George Cedarquist. For co-host Matt Cummings and our guest Will Liverman, I'm Ashley Hardgrave, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as you trade your hockey puck for a tin of rosin. We're back with an all-new show next week where we go inside the huddle with librettist and author Caitlin Vincent, whose industry tell-all Opera Wars is set for a January 13th release. Plus, you'll get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more historically bad teams on top. Join us.